So
I talked with this one, I met an old logger in Happy Camp, and you know, everywhere I went, I was just polite and said, hey, you got any Bigfoot stories to share? And I met this guy's wife, and she goes, come back tomorrow, my husband will be here. And he tells me, well, he was in the logging industry, and you know, he saw the 55 gallons drum tossed, and equipment tore up, tossed down the valley, and then he tells me about another logger he knows that shot 3 of them and knows where the gravesite is.
Oh, wow.
And so my original motivation, and I told him, I said, you know, my goal is to identify the species, protect the habitat. And I said, what do you think about the idea if these apes are half man, half human? And he looked at me and he went like this. He went, and I thought, oh shit, there's more to this story. This guy fucking knows something. And both him and his wife, they told me separately, they go, I think it's a mountain gorilla. But they don't say it like we're just talking, you know? She was almost pleading with me. Her eyes were real dilated. I mean, this was an emotional issue. The guy invited me to go with him where he does some business, spent the day with him. And I met some other locals that have had sightings. And
these are all in Northern California?
yeah, he tells, after I mentioned the half human, half ape theory, he repealed back. And then he tells me, he goes, we moved up here in the 50s. And he goes, the doctor that was up here at the time went on a house call. This is his story. He says that he got to the house and it was a newborn and they wanted to check on it, and it wasn't human. It had hair, it had a long nose, and the doctor realized, you know, there's some ethical issues here, you know, there's some legal issues here. This is not, you know, kosher to say the least. Anywho, he said the doctor came back with some, you know, county health officials the next day, and they moved out, gone. So I think there's some prevalence to the idea of half man, half ape. In David Paulides' books, they've got a forensic artist, and they signed affidavits that the pictures were real to their recollection. This was a FBI forensic artist, worked all over the country, renowned, and his drawings show human faces, big, huge bodies, but human faces, not the sagittal crest, not the big jaw that would support a lot of vegetation chewing. And that, you know, that'll make me a little uncomfortable in this aspect of, if it's half man, half ape, I'm going to think that makes him real smart, a lot smarter than we're going to give him credit for. So these are the stories that the locals say. Happy Camp, for instance, like we talked about this earlier, I rented a room, talked to the people that own the place. Her and his husband had a sighting of Sasquatch across the road, and then she tells me that everybody in Happy Camp has had a sighting and a story. There's 1,000 people in that town. So that's food for thought. And in that town, it's no big deal. It's the same as the indigenous people. Bigfoot's there. It's like, so what? You know, what's for lunch? And that's a pretty interesting aspect of it.
It is how the Native Americans kind of treat it.
Yeah, and you know, I really had that profound feeling, if they're not going to hurt me and they're willing to interact with me a little bit, at least I can show them the respect and give them their privacy. And to me, that's really important, more so than identifying the species. I went from a complete flip-flop, from wanting to identify the species to protect the habitat to leaving them alone. I was 2 years away from going to state, studying anthropology and archaeology, and in that field, the best way to preserve a site is not tell anybody about it. That's just the way it is. And you know, I think as long as mankind's on this planet, the Sasquatch is in jeopardy. So it's like, I'm going to try to confront these people, explain to me why it would be better to identify the species versus leaving them alone. Because that's my emotional change from my interaction and my close contact with them. So I was definitely a non-believer until I've had this close contact. They were within 30 yards of me in heavy timber, and they didn't hurt me. Like, I was surrounded by wood knocks, and I was going around in circles. I was whistled at. I had timber tore up around me, and so it's a hot spot. And I've collected 5 tracks. A spot where he picked me up after I spent the day with him, and I said, I had the gut feeling he was a shooter, and I said, do you think the shooter has a lot of guilt and remorse? And he's driving along, it's like this. It was like I hit him with a taser or something, I hit a nerve. And he goes, no, I don't think so. I said, the reason I ask is because if he wanted to, show us where these bones are and we can make a contribution to science, if that would help relieve his guilt and shame for shooting the creatures, because I wouldn't want to live with that. I would be horrible, let alone another human being. And he goes, no, I don't think so. And it's just, the reaction is, if I was talking about you and you were the shooter, I'd go, no, he doesn't want it. But this is an emotional thing for him. And I think I've hit a story or some underlying things that promote that half man, half ape theory. I really do. And it's kind of spooky.